Well, the drive to push Daesh out of Iraq is also gaining force. US-backed soldiers have begun shelling Daesh positions on the outskirts of Mosul. Thousands of troops are massing outside the city in preparation for a battle that could spell the end of the terror group in Iraq. Daesh members have been burning tires and oil to block the view of planes. Mosul has been under Daesh control since 2014. Let's take a closer look at the military offensive. Around 60,000 Iraqi government troops and US-backed militias are said to be taking part. Iraqi army soldiers and Shia militias will lead the attack from positions near the town of Qayyara, which lies some 50 kilometers south of Mosul. Kurdish Peshmerga forces will block Daesh terrorists from using escape routes and scan people fleeing the city. Turkish-trained fighters based at the Bashika camp will also be taking part. Despite objections from the Iraqi government, Turkey has been training fighters from Mosul and Kurdish Peshmerga units at Bashika in northern Iraq. Adding to these soldiers are US, French and British special forces who will play advisory roles and coordinate coalition airstrikes against Daesh targets. Let's speak to the journalist Campbell McDermott, who is on his way to Erbil, I believe, on the way to that front line of that war. He joins us now on the phone. Campbell, good to speak to you. I believe you are on your way to Mosul. What are you hearing in terms of what is going on in the front line and these reports that Daesh has begun burning oil?
Yes, good morning. That's right. I'm heading from Erbil now to the Gaza front line, which is not far from Bashika, which you mentioned in your report. What we're seeing at the moment is a very large build-up of troops, Iraqi security forces and Peshmerga heading to the Gaza front line, which is leading people to think that probably the operation is going to start, if not today, then the next couple of days. And as you mentioned, ISIS is deploying one of their tactics, which they use to try and thwart coalition airstrikes, which is to set oil wells on fire. That's something they did a few months ago when Qayyara was taken, and those oil wells are still burning. Whether or not it's very effective against the coalition jets is hard to say, but it may be more of a sign of their sort of desperation and preparation for this coming battle.
I listed some of the different players involved. There seem to be quite a lot of them. I mean, how are they all working together on this fight for Mosul?
I would say that a lot of the players you mentioned are uneasy allies at best. The coordination that I've seen has not been particularly close at times. The Peshmerga and the Iraqi security forces have somewhat of an uneasy relationship. But then when it comes to the Peshmerga and the Shia militias, that's even less coordination, I would say. And you mentioned as well that Baghdad is not happy about the presence of Turkish troops around Bashika.
Okay, Campbell, good to speak to you. Campbell McDermott, a journalist heading to that front line there on the phone.
Starting with Syria, where Turkish-backed fighters say they have captured the town of Dabiq. The northern Syrian town is an Islamic State stronghold of ideological importance to the jihadists. The military move is the latest to involve Turkey since Ankara launched its cross-border mission in August. For more on that story, we go now to our regional correspondent, Nadia Massi. Nadia, what more can you tell us about the battle for Dabiq?
Well, this assault on Dabiq was being led by Syrian rebels backed by Turkish tanks in an offensive called Operation Euphrates Shield. That's the name of Turkey's intervention in Syria, which was launched last month to push the Islamic State away from towns and villages along that Turkish border. So after pushing the Islamic State from Jarablus last week, the militants have now been routed from Dabiq, and that's the latest success of Operation Euphrates Shield. We've seen pictures being circulated by rebels this morning celebrating their success in the town, waving rifles in the air and celebrating pushing the Islamic State out of that area. Now, it had been thought that ISIS would fight relatively hard to keep it, but it did fall really quite quickly. It was only yesterday the rebels were still 2.5 kilometers away from Dabiq. And I think the fact that it fell quite quickly suggests that the group is under pressure, not only in Syria, but perhaps also in Iraq as well.
The US military says it has detected a failed North Korean intermediate ballistic missile test. A Pentagon statement was released saying the US strongly condemned this and other recent tests and urged Pyongyang to refrain from actions that further raise tensions in the region. The US Strategic Command Systems detected the failed launch near the northwestern city of Kusong. The statement does not explain what went wrong, but made clear it did not pose a threat to North America. Last month, North Korea said it had successfully carried out its fifth nuclear test in defiance of UN resolutions. In response, Washington said it would speed up the deployment of an anti-missile system to South Korea.
This is a hard-hit area in the city of Lekay. Around 100 people desperate for food have just looted a UN aid truck. UN soldiers fire tear gas at those they think are responsible, but children are also affected. Residents are angry.
The people were there for the food when they began fighting, and the UN soldiers thought they should be tear gassed. Everybody got gassed. We don't need the food. They can take it. We don't need it. God will show us how to survive.
Outgoing UN Chief Ban Ki-moon condemned looting of UN aid trucks on Friday in the city of Jérémie. The incident in Lekay happened shortly before he arrived there to see the plight of Haiti's hurricane survivors. These people living in a shelter are among the 1.4 million in need of aid. Ban, whose term as Secretary General finishes at the end of the year, is promising more help.
We are going to mobilize as much as resources and medical support to, first of all, prevent and stop this cholera epidemic. And then, second, support the families of the victims.
Hurricane Matthew tore through Haiti 2 weeks ago. Food is in short supply and cholera is a threat.
Plus de 500 personnes ont perdu leur vie.
More than 500 people died, more than 300 schools damaged. Thousands of Haitians live in provisional shelters, without water, without food, without healthcare. Various communities are still inaccessible.
Damage to power, communication and transport links have complicated international efforts to get help to those in need. Ban is promising to work quickly to provide more aid. With shortages of drinking water and medical supplies in devastated areas, the help can't come fast enough. Victoria Gatenby, Al Jazeera.
Thanks, guys. Good morning. Arson detectives are being called in to investigate a suspicious fire in Melbourne's southwest. Firefighters were called to the Dandenong North property just before 3 a.m. after a passerby raised the alarm. The residents were not home at the time and the house was extensively damaged. Any witnesses are urged to call crime stoppers.
A judge dismissed the wrongful death lawsuit brought by the Newtown families against the maker of the rifle used in the Sandy Hook school shooting. Adam Lanza used an AR-15 style rifle made by Remington Arms to kill his mother and 26 others during the massacre. Families were seeking to hold Remington accountable for selling a semi-automatic rifle that they considered too dangerous for the public. However, a judge upheld current law that states gun manufacturers cannot be held liable when their products are used in a crime.
A developing story out of southeast Kansas. A standoff comes to an end as police arrest a man in a neighborhood just blocks away from Vineyard and Emmanuel Cleaver Boulevard. Police say the man shot a woman before locking himself inside that home. Neighbors saw officers taking the injured woman to safety.
They drove her across my brother's yard over to his driveway and they started asking the person a bunch of questions.
The woman is still in serious condition tonight. Breaking news, 2 people were shot as gunfire rings out on the plaza. 41 Action News reporter Josh Helmuth is live on the plaza right now. Josh, what happened?
Lexi, I've had 4 witnesses now tell me the same story. This is unconfirmed by police, but according to these witnesses, they said a big fight between teenagers started right outside this store. It's Sugar here on 47th Street. It actually went into the store at one point. One teenager body slamming the other one into this candy display. According to witnesses, a manager had to come over and force all the kids by pushing and shoving them back outside. And it was seconds later, just down the street here at 47th and Broadway, where gunshots were then fired. Police say it happened shortly before 8 o'clock o'clock tonight. They say 2 people were shot, a male and a female. We don't know the identity of those people shot yet. They have non-life-threatening injuries, but police also say they haven't caught whomever is responsible. Many on the plaza heard the shots fired, and they had some suggestions on a year-round curfew.
As a parent, my kids would have a curfew anyway. I wouldn't have them running around in the plaza by themselves this time of night, on a weekend especially, so alone.
And it was just last weekend when a big brawl broke out between teenagers the police responded to again that happened right here on the plaza. From the plaza, Josh Helmuth, 41 Action News.
Josh, thank you. Now, the general manager of the plaza is responding to this shooting, releasing a statement tonight. He says police and security responded immediately and are now actively investigating the incident. We are fully cooperating with the Kansas City Police Department, but have no further information to provide as this is still an ongoing investigation.
A double shooting tonight in Anne Arundel County greeted some folks as they were coming home from work. It happened in Severn. ABC 2 News' Dakari Turner spoke to one man who stayed with one of the victims, helping to keep him conscious.
This is an area where there are businesses, shops, and also homes, so naturally there's a lot of people around. And when these 2 people were shot, there was someone right there to help.
I was just telling them to be calm and look at me. You know, I ain't want to lose consciousness.
Damon Scott didn't believe it at first. At about 6:10 this evening, 2 men were shot near this shopping center in Severn. Both stumbled up to the barbershop where Scott cuts hair and collapsed on the ground. One, Scott says, suffering what appeared to be a graze wound, the other clinging to life with a bullet wound in his chest, who also turned out to be a friend.
What did he look like when that was going on?
Well, I mean, he was scared. I mean, you could tell he was scared.
Anne Arundel County Police say it happened here in the area of Pioneer Drive and Deerfield Road. The victims were immediately rushed to the hospital after one of them was cut from his clothes. Police say at least one suspect fled the area after the shooting, but believe there is no threat to residents.
I mean, I felt bad for him, you know, because I don't think nobody deserves that. You know, I mean, I don't know what he did. You know, but nobody deserved to have that happen to him.
That's got to be a big concern.
Oh, yes, it is.
The crime scene here stretched at least 2 blocks and is right across the street from where Dawn Chambers lives with her 2 kids. Tonight, she came home from work to police flashing lights.
I'm just going to keep an eye on them and make sure I don't see any strange activity.
Police say both victims, 40 and 53 years old, are expected to survive.
Somebody had to do something. You know, and for nobody else to do anything, I didn't want the man to die because, like I said, he knew me ever since I was a child.
Detectives are continuing to investigate this shooting. In Severn, I'm Dakari Turner, ABC 2 News.
A deadly shooting in Kansas City, Kansas is just one more reason for the community to hold its Stop the Violence campaign. 41 Action News reporter Allie Hoxie joins us now live from the newsroom with more on this overnight killing. Allie, what do you know?
Well, just after 3 a.m., officers responded to a disturbance call at Stonehenge Townhomes. When officers arrived, they found a man in his mid-30s shot and killed. The man was found outside of his own townhome. Police on scene tell us there's no suspect information. This death coming hours before a KCK woman hoped to bring people together against this type of violence, holding a rally in her neighborhood.
I'm not really sure if they actually work, but, you know, at least somebody's trying. You know, you can never stop trying to make an effect on somebody's life or a community somewhere.
If you have any information on last night's shooting in KCK, call 816-474-TIPS. We'll also put that number on our website. In the newsroom, Allie Hoxie, 41 Action News.
Allie, thank you. Now,
a man has burns to his hands and face after a gas bottle exploded in Western Sydney. Emergency services were called to a Toongabbie home around 8:30. The man, aged in his 20s, is believed to have been using a barbecue at the time. The back of the home was extensively damaged and outdoor furniture destroyed. The man's recovering in hospital.
A wealthy California family gunned down in their beds. Their young son shot and wounded. 48 Hours has been reporting on this case for 2 years. Yesterday, it reached a stunning conclusion. Tonight, Aaron Moriarty has the update.
It was a crime that rocked this upscale beach community. A husband and wife killed in their beds. Andra and Brad Sachs.
In addition to the parents, the family's 8-year-old son was critically wounded, paralyzed for life. His 2 sisters were unharmed.
It appeared that the motive for this crime might have been revenge for a business transaction.
But after 3 weeks of investigation, detectives suspected that the killer was none other than the couple's 19-year-old son, Ashton Sachs, who was going to school 1,600 miles away in Seattle. They found his car with the rifle used to kill his parents.
We went up, knocked at the door. They weren't expecting us. We knew he was lying, and we knew he was lying.
Ashton was brought back to police headquarters. Almost immediately, he began to confess. He said he planned to kill his parents and then kill himself. He was arrested and charged with the murders.
Shoot them and then kill myself.
Last month, more than 2 years after the shootings, Ashton finally pleaded guilty. Yesterday, he was sentenced.
The defendant's a sociopath. He has no remorse. He has no empathy. All he cares about is himself.
Ashton was sentenced to 4 life sentences without the possibility of parole. Erin Moriarty, CBS News.
That story kicks off a 48 hours double feature beginning tonight at 9 right here on
I got an arm too. Let her go! Where's his other arm? Got it right here. All right. Got him? Here, let's...
The U.S. called out Russia last week, accusing it of recent cyber attacks aimed at disrupting next month's elections. Arizona is one of several states where Russian hackers allegedly tried to break into the voting system. Here's Justice and Homeland Security correspondent Jeff Pegues.
The hacking attempt on Arizona's voter database started in rural Gila County when an elections worker opened an email attachment.
Very scary stuff.
Michelle Reagan, Arizona's Secretary of State, says it was malware meant to attack these servers holding the voter information of 4 million people.
We had the cybersecurity team in place.
Reagan was alerted by the FBI. Experts believe the Russian government is to blame. What was your initial reaction?
Shock and dismay, obviously, because we've never had to worry about foreign invaders coming in and trying to mess with our confidence in our election system.
Arizona, Illinois, Florida, and nearly 24 other states have seen similar scanning, probing, or breaches of their election systems.
The Russians have a different doctrine than we do.
For over a decade, Jim Lewis has advised the U.S. government on cyber attacks.
They're using information as a way to achieve their political goals. They don't need the Red Army anymore. They have the internet.
President Vladimir Putin and other senior Russian officials have denied involvement, calling U.S. accusations nonsense.
The biggest thing we were worried about was, did they take any information?
Reagan says she is confident the voter database wasn't compromised, but she says the attacks continue. In September alone, officials here say that there were 192,000 intrusion attempts. About 11,000 of them posed a serious threat. Reagan and 32 other secretaries of state have asked the Department of Homeland Security for help.
I liken it to when you're being invaded by Russia, you don't call in your National Guard. At some point, you have to say, I need the Army.
Changing actual vote totals is difficult because voting machines are not connected to the internet, but throwing confusion into an already contentious election, that is a lot easier, and that's what officials believe the Russians are trying to do. Jeff Pegues, CBS News, Phoenix.